Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanang Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashra Prayeshva Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, and we're on text 31. 1-8-31. Gopyadate tvai krita kasidam tavadyate dashashru kalilanjana sampramaksham vaktrang niniya bhayabhavanaya stitasya samang vimohayati bhir apayad vipeti. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here is another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme in all circumstances, as already explained. Here is a specific example of the Lord's being the Supreme, and at the same time, a plaything in the presence of his pure devotee. The Lord's pure devotee renders service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only. And while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotee forgets the position of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees, more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection, without anything of reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude, but the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastimes in the original abode of Goloka Vrindavana are exchanged in that spirit. The friends of Krishna consider him one of them. They do not consider him to be of reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotees, consider him a child only. The Lord accepts the chastisements of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his fiancées more palatably than the Vedic hymns. When Lord Krishna was present in this material world to manifest his eternal pastimes of the transcendental realm of Goloka Vrindavana, as an attraction for the people in general, he displayed a unique picture of subordination before his foster mother, Yashoda. The Lord, in his naturally childish, playful activities, used to spoil the stocked butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing the contents to his friends and playmates, including the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan, who took advantage of the Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for her transcendental child. She took a rope and threatened the Lord that she would tie him up, as it is generally done in the ordinary household. Seeing the rope in the hands of Mother Yashoda, the Lord bowed down his head and began to weep, just like a child, and tears rolled down his cheeks, washing off the black ointment smeared about his beautiful eyes. This picture of the Lord is adored by Kunti Devi because she is conscious of the Lord's supreme position. He is feared often by fear personified, yet he is afraid of his mother, who wanted to punish him just in an ordinary manner. Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's. Mother Yashoda got the Lord as her child, and the Lord made her forget altogether that her child was the Lord himself. If Mother Yashoda had been conscious of the exalted position of the Lord, she would certainly have hesitated to punish the Lord, but she was made to forget this situation, because the Lord wanted to make a complete gesture of childishness before the affectionate Yashoda. This exchange of love between the mother and the son was performed in a natural way, and Kunti, remembering the scene, was bewildered, and she could do nothing but praise the transcendental filial love. Indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all-powerful Lord as her beloved child. Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Hare Krishna. So we've been hearing about how the Lord's pastimes are human-like. And Kunti Devi says, which appear to be human and so are misleading. Because, and she begins with tattva, as the devotee always does. Begins with things as they are, the nature of things. That Krishna is, how did she put it? You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy or malice. People only imagine you're partial. She's been speaking, chanting, praying about how he's transcendental to the modes of nature. And she's reaffirming that. You have no, you don't play favorites, because that's a function of the modes of nature. So she's established all this tattva, and at the same time, she's aware of rasa, that Krishna is, yes, he's transcendental to the modes of nature. Yes, he's the source of everything. He's unborn, and yet he's also born, apparently. He has a mother and father. And she's sitting with the contradiction. She's sitting with the contradictions of Krishna, right? And this is actually very instructive for us, to be able to sit with contradiction. Now it's said, I don't have a reference for this because I looked it up one time and I couldn't find it, but it's said that Srila Prabhupada said something on this very point, sitting with contradictions. Now I'm prefacing this by saying it appears that he said this because now we don't really want to put words in people's mouth without a direct quote, but I've been told that Srila Prabhupada said that one definition of intelligence is the ability to hold contradicting opinions at the same time and to sit with that. And this stands to reason according to our understanding of the modes of nature, because we've talked at different times about what a discussion of truth would look like a conversation, even like a debate would look like in the modes of nature. And in ignorance, you want to just take up your opposition down. You want them to be ruined. You want to make them look like a fool. In passion, you want to win, which means the idea that you currently hold, you want that to be the winning idea. In goodness, you just want the truth. You're able to sit with the fact that somebody disagrees with you. Maybe everybody disagrees with you. Maybe you don't even know what the truth is. Maybe you're sitting with not knowing. That's sattva. Sattva is like, okay, whatever is, I'm dedicated to the truth, whatever that may be. May it descend in my heart and mind, and may I be convinced of it, and maybe I'll be convinced of that truth. It's a function of goodness to not be pushed by, yeah, but I already believe this, so you tell me I'm wrong, right? Or who are you to tell me? Or to give away your agency entirely and just believe something someone tells you. That's also not in goodness. That's actually in ignorance. And the ability to actually handle that Krishna is contradictory, on some level he's contradictory, is a sign of advancement. She's sitting with that. She understands that you don't play favorites, and yet you're born in only this family, and you don't have like a lineage, and yet you have parents, and nobody can chastise you. You're above everything, and yet you're running actually out of fear from your mother, who's going to punish you for being, what, a rascal? And she says, verily this is bewildering. To last week's verse and today's verse, she says, you are afraid, although fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. So she's sitting with a contradiction. And the contradiction has to do with tattva and rasa, which we talked about before, that tattva is things as they are. The nature of Krishna is that he's the supreme. He's beyond the modes of nature, he doesn't play favorites, all these things. And the rasa is he is apparently playing favorites. He's a special object of affection for Yashoda. In a way he wasn't even for Devaki, his birth mother. And there's a certain, there's another kind of reality in that, different than the reality of Krishna as tattva, Krishna as the Ishvara, the controller, beyond time, source of everyone's karma, but beyond karma. It's a different kind of reality. Albert Einstein said, and this one is actually more confirmed, that you cannot solve a problem on the same level that created it, right? And similarly, in this situation, Krishna having a personality, Krishna having exchanges, emotional exchanges, Krishna being in a subordinate position, indeed in any position except the position of, transcendent Lord. That's a problem. In the sense of, it's a problem intellectually. It's not a problem for him. Not a problem for Yashoda. They're having a great time. But for us, on the outside, speaking for myself, I'm not in Vrindavan. I'm not in those pastimes. I'm not realizing whatever Mother Yashoda is realizing. So for me, it's a problem to make sense of it. So the solution, according to the logic it is presented, is to not figure that problem out on the same level as my own intelligence. It cannot be solved on that level. It's not on that level. My intelligence is in the modes of nature. Krishna's activities, Mother Yashoda's activities, are not in the modes of nature. My intelligence is bound by time. Theirs isn't bound by time. It's a different thing entirely. It's actually higher than the principle of God as controller. That's how high it is. Because even the principle of God as controller is already very high. Is already transcendental to the modes of nature. That's why he's the controller, because he just subjects all of us to the modes of nature according to whatever we deserve and desire. But here he is above that. Like when you rise above the clouds, there are no clouds. Everything's very clear. So Krishna is already, as the controller, that's a very high thing. And this is higher than that. How do I understand this? So it's contradictory, and it's evidence that something else is going on. That the whole reality is not completely explained by God as the controller. And it turns out that's true. That isn't the whole story. There is more to it. Lord Chaitanya has not just come only to remind us that there is God and he is the controller. That would already be a massive wake-up call. A big honking alarm on the ongoing snooze tactic of Kali Yuga, where we're just deeply, deeply interested in forgetting about him. Forgetting about our responsibility, forgetting about our responsibilities to each other, forgetting about how we're all connected, forgetting about our long-cherished plan to try to be God. That would already be a big step. He's actually not coming just to share that. That's secondary. He's actually coming to share Krishna's intimate pastimes, which are not understood on the level of God as the controller, because he's not operating as a controller in Vrindavan. It's a very interesting thing. In Vrindavan, in Krishna's most intimate pastimes, which that's where they're performed, with the Vrindavan devotees, that's who they're performed with, Krishna, the source of all the opulences, actually gives up each one of his opulences. Consider the 6 classic opulences described by Parashara Muni. Some of you may know some of these. Maybe you know some? Knowledge. Beauty. Renunciation. Wealth. Fame.
And strength.
Those are the 6 opulences. In Vrindavan, strength. Krishna wrestles with his friends and they beat him. What strength? Yeah, sometimes he lifts mountains. Okay. Not all the time. Most of the time, his friends play with him. Sometimes he loses. We've seen in Pralambasura pastimes, Krishna and some friends are on one side, Balaram and some friends are on the other side. And they play against each other. They have some I don't even know what game they're playing. The loser's team has to put the winner's team on their back. Right? In that pastime, Balaram's team lost. So Balaram has to put Pralambasura on his back because Pralambasura was disguising as a demon. And then Balaram realized what happened, killed the demon. But sometimes Krishna loses. Sometimes Krishna has to put his friends on his back. Sometimes Krishna has an arm wrestling match or a wrestling match or a race and he loses. Where's your strength there? Beauty. Krishna's in Vrindavan. He's the most beautiful and he's completely overcome with love for his devotees. He's bewildered by love for Radharani. He can't stop thinking about her. His beauty completely intoxicates him. Knowledge. He knows everything. He knows that he's supreme, but in Vrindavan he forgets about that. He sets it aside. He gives up all of his opulences in Vrindavan. So this is actually something else. So when you have, like, even in science, even in empirical science, if you have like a very strong model for explaining reality, whether it's physical reality or biology, physics, chemistry, whatever it is, you have a nice strong model, and then all of a sudden there's like, okay, 99% of things are explained, but there's this one part of things that's like completely non-explained. It means, okay, your model is actually like insufficient. It may be sufficient in this realm, in this context, but as soon as you look over here, it doesn't work anymore. You actually have to expand that model. Often with something that's so groundbreaking, it's very different than what you've been looking at, the way you've been looking at it. So this is that. This is not like God is the controller at all. That's already very important for us to understand. But this is very confident. This is what Krishna calls the most confidential knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 9 is called the most confidential knowledge. And what happens in that chapter in Bhagavad Gita? That's the chapter where Krishna says, hey, listen up, Arjuna. If you offer me a leaf, a flower, or fruit, or water, just some simple thing. If you offer it with love, I will accept it. That's the most confidential knowledge. That and that kind of thing. That's the most confidential knowledge. That's the beginning of Krishna really showing up and saying, actually, if you choose me, I'll choose you. Actually, if you reach out to me, I'll give myself to you. Right? What a brave thing for him to do. You know, imagine you say that to somebody and they're like, forget you. You know, but Krishna is making that offer. He's very boldly, very powerfully making that, extending that. You know, here it is. If you want, you can have me. You can step into that world. That's actually what Lord Chaitanya is doing. Here's Krishna. Here's what he's experiencing with his devotees. If you want that, you can have that. You can know him on that level. This is so much higher than God as controller, which already we should be understanding, just to have a civilized life. So Kunti is sitting with this contradiction, and we should sit with it too, because there are going to be contradictions when we're hearing about Krishna, because he's the supreme, which means he's beyond us. And because he's beyond us, he's going to challenge us. And, you know, I'm seeing people nod. I know this is not an unfamiliar concept. Krishna consciousness is a challenging path in the sense that it challenges our preconceptions. Srila Prabhupada said, it's simple for the simple, right? Bhakti is simple for the simple. Because it's actually like, yeah, God, there's God, and he's supreme, and I trust him, and I'm surrendering to him. It's actually very simple. It's actually like the function of the soul, just to like, okay, I'm yours. And yet, it's difficult for us because we've become complicated. As our guest, my friend Mahabhagavad Prabhu was saying last week, there's a childlike simplicity that's there that we've given up, that makes us complicated. And so, there are ways in which Krishna challenges us. He feels challenging, right? There are attachments we have to give up. Certain points of view that are holding us back, that need to be expanded, extended, purified, that Krishna is trying to help us towards, that we're like, you know, resisting it, you know, tightening up around. And that happens. And Kunti is showing us what you can do when that happens. You don't run away. You don't try to fix it. You know, fixing it would be like, okay, well, hold on. Let's like edit the Shastra here. This stuff doesn't make sense. Can't do that. Can't do that. You don't even say like, okay, I should never think critically about this. It's wrong or bad to like ask, why is there a contradiction? No, you don't do that. that doesn't work either. That creates a system of blind following, which we know where that goes, right? You sit with it. You sit with the contradiction. And you admit it. I mean, not only are we not denying there's a contradiction, the greatest devotees are the most aware of the contradiction. Kunti's saying, Prabhupada is saying, is it not bewildering that the Supreme Person, who is feared by fear personified, is running from his mom? What's the deal with that? Because we want to see that for what it is, which means we have to look at it and sit with the contradiction so we can understand what are our assumptions. What is it I'm holding on to that makes it impossible for me to step through that door, to take another step closer? What is it I'm holding on to right now that's weighing me down from coming closer to Krishna? That is the critical question for every devotee. And Krishna always has the answer to that question, although the answer varies at every point. He knows. And if we're brave enough to sit with that question, he'll show us what we need to know in our japa, in our service. What is it that you're currently attached to? What misunderstanding, what misalignment are you currently attached to that's slowing you down from coming to actually knowing him better, loving him better, seeing him more truly? And Kunti is showing us the deep courage, the patience, the ability to tolerate, right? I think I mentioned this in response to Mahabhagavad last week, that the Sanskrit word kshama, K-S-H-A-M-A, kshama, it means tolerance, but it also means patience. If we could be patient with ourselves, if we can tolerate that we don't know everything yet, if we can sit with that, then we can actually invite Krishna to give us what we need to come out of the current level that we're stuck in and come to the next level. If we're able to tolerate the fact that I can't figure everything out right now, if we can handle what that means for our ego, then we can receive help, right? If you don't actually admit that you need help, then how can the help come, right? You can have all the qualified teachers in the universe, but if you think you're fine, the hardest person to wake up is somebody who's convinced they're not asleep. So if we're like, yeah, this is a problem, I don't understand this, Krishna, help me understand it, then we're ready to receive. The grace can flow, and it requires grace. Understanding Krishna as a person requires grace. There's no other way it can happen. It can't happen if we're probing and prodding with our empirical science and our powerful intelligence and our tools that we've been using to understand matter. What we use to understand matter, we cannot use to understand spirit, transcendence. We can't even use it to understand another person as they are, a soul. We can't do that. It doesn't work. We have to use something else. We have to use spiritual knowledge. There has to be grace to help us understand, okay, well, hold on. You're not material, you're a soul. And by the way, Krishna says, so am I. And here are my pastimes of love. Here's me surrendered to my mother. Here are my friends. Here's Vrindavan. And it takes grace to enter into that. So Lord Chaitanya's movement is a movement of grace, encouraging us to soften and to sitting with that contradiction of Krishna as supremely neutral, but here he is playing favorites. Here he is in one family, but not another. Here he is fearless, but he's afraid. And sitting with that so that we can actually grow into what we don't currently understand, which is that Krishna is experiencing some very deep pastimes, and he's experiencing the highest kinds of loving exchanges, which are freely offered in a world with people in relationships that are completely transcendental to anything we understand, bound by time and karma. And he's inviting us to come. So those are some thoughts. I focused on this sitting with not knowing, sitting with not currently understanding, sitting with contradiction, sitting with being challenged or feeling challenged, having our paradigm challenged, our theories challenged by something outside of them. That's how we grow. That's how science even grows. You have to be challenged. And some thoughts on the specific challenge here, the deep emotional exchanges of Krishna with his devotees, and how those actually aren't like any relationship we ever have had any experience with. And so we need grace to be able to appreciate them properly. Om Tat Sat. Let's take some questions, comments, reflections. Anything that stood out on these ideas. What did you hear?
I love what you were just speaking about, how bhakti is a movement of grace, right? And when we can admit that we need help, that's when we open to receiving, and also grace can flow.
Yeah.
And come, and we can realize that there's even grace flowing. Right? And you also were speaking about sitting with the apparent contradictions and not avoiding it or acting like it's being blind to it.
Or sweeping under the carpet.
Yeah.
Denying it.
And sort of I was hearing like shifting our perspective around what we don't understand, or around what doesn't make logical sense. And I heard recently, and I've been sitting with, if the answer isn't love, you're asking the wrong question. And so I was hearing that also in what you were sharing. And because ultimately everything that Krishna is facilitating is for love. And so in asking, why did he do that? Well, it's for love, right? Why is he doing that?
For love.
Yeah. Right.
For play.
Right.
Yeah. Out of his own sweet will. Thank you. Yeah. What was the first point you said?
Bhakti is a movement of grace. Sitting with contradictions.
Yeah.
Changing our mindset around what we don't understand.
Yeah, I was going to say, the bhakti point of view isn't like religion as a placebo or spirituality as a placebo, where it's like, listen, take the happy pill, it's all going to be okay, it's actually all right. Not exactly that, because we see the Bhagavad Gita is precipitated by Arjuna's fundamentally having the opposite experience. He has a full-on view of material reality in its naked and most ugly form. All the illusions are dropped. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of suffering happening in this world. Actually, nobody's more aware of that than the pure devotee. You think that the philanthropists of this world are as aware of the suffering of humanity as the pure devotee is? No, nobody's as aware as a pure devotee, except for Krishna. We're aware. We're deeply aware. Bhakti isn't about denying reality. It isn't about conquering or fixing reality. It's about transcending reality, which starts by admitting it for what it is, right? You can't actually fix a problem if you're denying it's there. And you can't fix a problem on the same level, which is what all the philanthropists are trying to do. We'll feed all the hungry people. That'll solve the problem. No, that won't solve the problem. It actually won't. There will still be hungry people. There'll still be souls who have to be born with the karma to suffer. That doesn't solve the problem. That doesn't solve the ignorance that put them there in the first place. That doesn't solve your own ignorance. That's a solution on the same level. The real solution means sitting with, okay, this world can't be fixed. There are a lot of things going on here, and I can't fix them. And everyone else's attempt to fix them has also failed. They've done some things, but ultimately, it's been a failure. It has not solved the fundamental problems. So that's what bhakti starts. As it started with Arjuna. I can't fix this. I can't fix this. And it sucks. Yeah. And that's refreshing, actually. People are refreshed by that perspective. Because that is not a perspective they get from religious institutions. It's not a perspective they get from spiritual people. Generally, what they see is they get denial, running away from problems, some kind of sectarian thing. That's really what they see. Or some material, okay, we're going to fix it, roll up your sleeves, material solution. Neither of which works. Yeah. Thank you. What else did you hear?
Thank you so much. A pretty sensational class today. It really touched me quite a bit, because just that I wrote it down, just that, what am I holding on to that prevents me from getting close to Krishna? And I do think that the contradictions, less so now, but I think when I first started, were really, really, coming as a chemist, one plus
Mhm.
one definitely equals two, and you're like, no, not necessarily. And being able to, I think, as you say, sit with it and acknowledge it and admit that maybe I'm having a battle with some of the things that are happening here and I don't understand. But I think the more I hear, whatever lecture it might be, the more I'm starting to come into a place of faith
Mm-hmm.
rather than um, knowledge. I mean, knowledge is coming, but it's more like it's not blind faith, it's just a deeper trust.
Yeah.
And I always think that grace is unearned. I can't work really hard and all of a sudden grace will come to me. Grace comes when Krishna thinks it's the right time for whoever it is. That grace is something that, and what I did love about this rasa is that Yashoda's acting in a way. I just learned about right wing and left wing gopis. So uh, Yashoda's acting in a way of like, you're mine, Krishna. I gotta make sure that you learn a lesson here because I'm your mother. She's not, thinking about, oh, well, he was teaching me a lesson. She is really this passion. Whereas, Krishna will expand himself, 16,108 times to be intimately involved with all of his queens and wives, and it's not necessarily that same intimacy, so that he really is allowing us to observe a really sacred kind of um, love between mother and child and responsibilities, and him being able to um, give Yashoda that kind of devotion and love, which is really beautiful. What was the other thing I thought of? Yeah, no, Krishna is mine rather than I am Krishna. It's really beautiful. So thank you so much today. I really, really got a lot out of today's class. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to mention that I guess I didn't kind of mention in the talk is that the consequence of Krishna's relationships being so high, aside from the consequence that we need to sit with the contradiction and everything which I talked about, is that we don't want to take it cheaply, because that's another thing that has happened historically or can happen psychologically in any given person. It's like, because if we take it cheaply, it ends up that people will view Krishna's relationships through the lens of their own modes of nature. Um, because it is such an act of grace that we can hear about these relationships and become empowered to come closer and closer to appreciating more and more, we always want to sit with appreciation and gratitude. And I heard that in what you were saying, like when you were talking about how you've had this experience of having to soften out of, like, oh wow, recognizing I am feeling challenged around some things in this bhakti process around Krishna or whatever, and that you've been kind of softening into faith. And I was thinking about how appreciation is really like a key, like if we see that hearing about Krishna and even in his contradictions increases our appreciation, then it means we're taking the medicine properly. Like the medicine being taken properly doesn't mean we understand him, we get him necessarily. It means we'll appreciate him more. Like Kunti's like, whoa, there's this and there's this, and they're so contradictory, but she's so overwhelmed with appreciation for him because of that, right? And that's the proof that she's a great devotee. She in no way is trying to control him and make him hers. I get you, right? She's not trying to jump into Vrindavan and become that devotee. Like, oh, I can take it very cheaply. I get it. I can be one of them. Like, it's like, that's grace. That's not for me necessarily right now. Maybe one day, but it does make me appreciate him more. So that's a powerful index, is that our humility is increasing, our appreciation is increasing. That means we're taking it properly. It's working on us properly. Rather than there is such a thing as spiritual arrogance and jumping too quickly and trying to be like, oh yeah, I've heard about Vrindavan as the highest. I only hear about Vrindavan now. I don't have to read Bhagavad Gita anymore. Like, that kind of thing can happen historically, and it's problematic. So that's not lined up with humility. It's not aligned with appreciation. It's like, yeah, I don't need Bhagavad Gita. Well, you don't appreciate that anymore. It's not good enough for you. So, yeah, I was just reminded of that in your reflection. So thought I'd add it in. Thank you. Shakti has her hand up.
This class, I feel like this class for me, I mean, it was, thank you so much for offering everything that you do on these Friday morning classes. And then this reading, you know, talking about being close to Krishna, I have, like, I know you would never believe it, none of you, that I have a part of me that could be bratty. I know, it's so great. You don't believe it. I know, right? But this is something that this was something I literally, I was like, I asked to be born into my parents' world that was very bratty. Like, all I was like, I want this and I want that. But there wasn't there wasn't all of that stuff that they gave me. The love wasn't there. The, you're doing a great job, Stacey. That wasn't there. But all the things, right? I got a car, I got a this, I got a shirt, I got all these, whatever I got all these things. And at the end of the day, none of those things made me happy. All I wanted was to, like, maybe sit on my father's lap and for him to tell me that I'm doing a great job. Hey, so what happens now is, like, there's been something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I don't know if Kishore even knows about it, but I've been wanting to stay in an ashram, in a temple environment, for the last 2 years. I've been trying to find the right place, be in the right temple, and go for a whole month and just really absorb myself, like a teacher training immersion.
Yeah.
This would be a different type of immersion because I'm in a different place. I could do a lot of service because you have to do service, and that's great for me because that gets me out of here. And then also I can learn so much. And so I wanted to go to I asked to go to a certain temple, and it became like a calamity. And I cried and I cried and I sat in front of my altar and I said, Krishna, why won't you do this? Why? I was like, I was yearning, and I just couldn't understand why he wouldn't want this for me. Why wouldn't he? All these things. But there was another temple that I actually really wanted to be in. It's just not close to my husband. And so I had sent an email out to that temple. So as I'm yearning and kind of, they're maybe giving little bits and bats of stupid negative energy around it, I received an email saying, this isn't the best month for us, but we would love to have you here. And I thought, okay, it's not my way. It's Krishna's way. It's where Krishna thinks I should be. And honestly, that's what George told me. He said, Krishna doesn't think you should be in that place. He wants you to be in a certain place or not. But if he does, then that's where you'll be. That's where you'll be. That's where you'll be. So it's like, I feel like, and to be honest, Melanie put something in the group very similar to this. Like, it's my shortcomings. And how do I let go of these and let go and let Krishna? That has been something I've been trying to say a lot, and it's easy to say, but hard to live. So I'll take any feedback that would help me with that, because to the degree that I don't do that is to the degree that I suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah, that's we can see in Srila Prabhupada's life too, even great devotees, in a way, especially great devotees, they have like a lot of challenges where it's like, wait, you want me to start this Krishna consciousness movement? He tried to do it in India. It blew up in his face. It didn't work out. He apparently made mistakes. Like try something that doesn't work, change his mind. It's like Prabhupada showed what it's like to be open to Krishna's plan and to adjust and to have that humility and to sit with the contradiction of like, I've been given an impossible task by my guru, but I got to do it anyway, and I want to do it. And obviously, we're seeing the results. So it was so much greater than even he, with his big, huge thinking, could come up with. It was something that he needed to surrender into, and it happened that way. So for us, would it speak for us? That's always happening. It's always going on. Can you scroll up in the chat? The comment from.
Really?
Just scroll.
Keep going.
Get that down. Uh-oh. Okay. There. Sitting in an awkwardly quiet waiting room in the car. I'm going to type instead of talking. This is such a valuable teaching conversation to be having. I've been having these realizations for quite a little while now, and it can feel overwhelming. I had a chance to listen in on a conversation with Pranada Komtwa. That's a Prabhupada disciple who's an author. And she said, once you get fed up, you can really begin to show up. Fed up with our own shortcomings. She shared about begging for help and for the opportunity to approach the divine. You can scroll down. And boy, I'm pretty fed up with my shortcomings and my conditioning. So I'm at this place where I'd like to really ask for help from Krishna. But then there is this part of me that feels so selfish to beg for help in deepening and asking to move closer. Like somehow I shouldn't even be asking for such things. So please, any guidance around humble begging for help from Krishna. It's like the ultimate contradiction for me when thinking about Krishna consciousness. I'm supposed to serve him. He has already done so much for me. How can I possibly ask for more? Yeah. Well, who else is going to help you? Right? So there's two possibilities. Either we're afraid of asking for help because we, on some level, think that I should be able to figure it out on my own. That I should be able to stand on my own 2 feet, figure it out on my own, and I should like solve my own problems, right? Which is a kind of mode of passion response, right? Like I figure out I solve my problems, or I shouldn't be asking for help because I don't deserve it. I'm bad and wrong, and who am I to like? I'm not good enough to receive help. That's a mode of ignorance response. And so depending on which one you're coming from, usually it's more one than the other, the approach is different. Because the thing I would say is different for each kind of person. So one kind of person needs to become convinced that they can't fix their own problems. The other kind of person needs to become convinced that they deserve to have a problem fixed in the first place. And Krishna is proving both of those things true in different ways. Krishna is showing again and again how he loves everybody. He's showing again and again. I mean, the Krishna book is so full of him slaying and liberating demons. Like, what was Putana but an assassin? So ask yourself, if you have self-esteem issues, are you any worse than Putana? Putana was an assassin. She murdered babies for fun. She wasn't even an honest assassin. She walked around killing people and wasn't even honest about it. She disguised herself so she can go in their homes and kill their babies. That's who Putana was. And Krishna's like, yeah, you're my mom. I accept you as a mom. Boink. Because she's part and parcel of him. That's his prerogative. No one can say you can't do that. That's not fair. It's not just. Yeah, it's not just. Krishna decides what's just. Krishna decided, yeah, I know. I'm taking her. I'm taking her now. Who can stop him? So I didn't decide for Lord Chaitanya to come into my life. You didn't decide for Lord Chaitanya to come into your life. He decided. That makes it so that we deserve it. Because he says we deserve it. I didn't say I deserve it. That's the solution to the mode of ignorance thing. The mode of passion thing is, look at how the most equipped people in the universe have failed to solve their problems. Look at Arjuna. Study the Mahabharata carefully. Look at what kind of person Arjuna was. How qualified, how manly, how intelligent. How many people he defeated in battle. He defeated Lord Shiva in battle. Lord Shiva gave him benedictions. He defeated this demigod, that demigod, this, and he couldn't solve his problems. It's never going to happen. He had to surrender to Krishna to solve his problems. There's no time at which Krishna is like, okay, now I've given you enough for you to figure it out on your own and just do it with your own equipment. We don't have equipment. We can't even breathe without his help. This machine, this is a gift. We don't have anything. The whole mode of passion perspective falls apart when you realize it's all a gift. It's all a gift. This powerful intelligence, this body, all of it's a gift. Where's the question of me independently doing something? Mozart, gifted. Jimi Hendrix, gifted. Everyone's gifted. I'm gifted. There's your solution. So if I'm going to make advancement, I have to take what Krishna wants to give me. It's just more gifts. And let go of the ego of, well, it's my thing. I'm going to solve my problem. I did it my way. So that's kind of a snapshot of the two kind of perspectives of passion and ignorance and how they can hold us back from receiving. And you know which one's affecting you more. Hopefully that helped.
I just want to say thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in the same place as Midori. And it just sometimes I feel like, wow, I have so much from Krishna. I'm supposed to serve him. Like even with my guru, right? I'm supposed to serve him. He's not supposed to serve me and do things for me. Even though he'll say, don't worry, I'm going to talk to so-and-so for you. I tell him, no, don't. So anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't want to let other people talk, but yeah, thank you.
Who am I to ask Krishna for help? It's like, well, yeah, but consider what will happen for your service when you become empowered more. It's like one thing to say, like, who am I to ask Krishna for my material desires to be fulfilled? Okay. That's okay. You want to guilt yourself around that. I understand that. There's even like a point of view in which you should feel bad about that to an extent. But if you actually become convinced that growing out of my own shortcomings, that'll help me serve better, because it certainly will. I don't even have to know what your shortcomings are to know that it will help you to become transcendental to them. Your service will grow. If you become convinced of that, then it's now a spiritual desire. And now it could be a spiritual desire. I don't just want to become free of this because it sucks and it feels bad and I feel bad about myself and I'm tired of it and I'm bored, I'm angry. I don't just want it for that. I want it because, you know what? I've got rocks in my pocket and it's weighing me down and I'm trying to walk towards you and I'm trying to serve you, but I'm just holding myself back, Krishna. Please help me so I can serve you better. That's legit. So that can be a shortcut.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can be grateful for the service you're doing and still say, like, I'd love to do more. Please help me so I can do more and better. That's okay. That's legit. Prabhupada did that. That's a healthy perspective to have. You got to have both. Any more reflections, questions, or comments? Drop the rock. Yeah, drop the rock. Sometimes we need help dropping the rock.
Okay.
All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Now let's take this opportunity to offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire bees, can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls. Jai. Vancha kalpatrupyascha. Vasantu vyevcha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thanks everyone. Thanks YouTube crew. See you soon.